Welcome back to the podcast. We have Ashley Mina with us here today. You may know her as her handle on Instagram, Your Work Wife Ashley, or as the founder of the Working Gal Co. She is absolutely phenomenal. If you know, you know. And if you don't know, you need to know. And that is why we have her here today. So, Ashley, welcome to the podcast. We are so excited that you're here. I'm Joe.
I'm Lyndon.
That's our voicemail. Welcome to the podcast. Okay, Ashley, back to you.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. So I am Ashley Mina, located in Phoenix, and I am your work wife. So I partner with women in businesses who are just ready to make bold pivots in their career and build what's next.
What a powerful, one-liner.
You
I
know,
like that a lot.
there's a lot of other titles that we can go into, but that's the crux of it.
Of course.
That was actually going to be my next question is, like, a lot of people that we talk to that run a business are fairly multi-passionate. If you just gave, like, the big picture, what are, like, the main parts of what you do? Since I know you run multiple communities and multiple sides of your business.
Yeah, I would say community founders like the big part of it. Even just with your work wife Ashley and the two that I run. So the Working Gal Co, which is a virtual membership for women who are pivoting from corporate to entrepreneurship and entrepreneurs that are building. And then Gals Against the Grain, a community and podcast for Asian female founders who just want to get together and build community with other Asian founders who went against tradition and build a life and business on their own. So with those two things in general, they've been a big part of my own pivot. I love creating community. I love having people around me who are not only like-minded, but also challenge me. And so those two really started my big transition into this world.
I know I've told you this a million times, but it's worth saying again. I truly love the way that you lead and show up online. I was telling London yesterday that you are so authentic, and it's not the buzzword authentic. It's like unapologetically you in the true sense of the phrase. And it's part of what makes your content so enjoyable to consume, because I feel like I'm getting the real Ashley, and all of your just the ups and downs of entrepreneurship and bringing us along for the ride and being proud of what you're building and leading so well from a place of that true support that we all crave. It's something I admire about you a lot. So that's my gushing moment for
Thank
you.
you.
Number
Thank
one,
you.
we need a counter because there's going to be more. But
So a lot of this kind of interview that we have set up is around the question of how do I transition from corporate into running my own business? And I think an interesting place to start is, can we start with your story of how you kind of made that pivot for yourself?
Yeah. It kind of happened for me almost 3 years ago, which is like so crazy to think about because it
can't
feels
believe
so
it's
long,
already
but went
been
by
three
so
years.
fast. But yeah, so 3 years ago, yeah, June of 3 years ago, I got laid off from my corporate job. And then for whatever reason, decided to jump into entrepreneurship,
As one
which is
does.
very unlike me. Like it was in my gut, but I was like, just the golden handcuffs. So truly, if I hadn't been laid off, I don't know if I would be where I'm at today. So I give a huge kudos to the people who just make that leap in general. But then since then, kind of what you were talking about, Joe, earlier, which thank you, big compliment, but something that I've really leaned into is just kind of finding myself and leaning into the unknown during that journey. And so I created some digital products along the line of like career stuff. That was my background, was HR and people operations, I guess. So I created digital products for career change, helping women jump ship from either their current role or another corporate role, or jump into entrepreneurship itself. And so I don't know, I say all that jumbled mess to say that it hasn't been like linear at all, but the journey itself has been a really fun roller coaster, I would say.
It's been fun to write it with you. Like, it's been really cool. And you have put yourself out there. That's told you there's going to be more. One other thing that I admire about you is how you just put yourself out there for other opportunities. You pitch yourself to be on stages, you build the communities that you want, you apply for different roles that just put you out there and give you more visibility, and that it could be a whole conversation in itself,
Mhm.
because I know a lot of women especially really have a hard time, myself included, with putting ourselves out there for these big opportunities that we desperately want, but are too afraid to make. So maybe if we tie that into the corporate jump that you made into entrepreneurship, do you have any advice on that for women in particular who know that they want to do their own thing, start their own business, go into entrepreneurship, but they have those golden handcuffs, still staying in a corporate position that is paying well, it's got that stability? What would you say to them on making that jump and betting on themselves?
Mm-hmm. I guess two things. They're both two pieces of advice that I got pre-jump while I was in corporate. One, actually, it's something my mom always said, is like nothing ever has to be permanent. So you can always try new things. I can always go back. The second is from a VP that I worked with back in my last corporate role. And her big advice to anybody was like, it sounds selfish to say, but get what you want out of any role. You can always get something, even if you hate it. And so that's the mindset I took into entrepreneurship, and really has also made the journey a lot more fun instead of tedious. Yes, there's hard times, but I say all that because pitching myself or trying new roles or doing a random project, like I'm always going to learn something. And so that was kind of my mindset going into entrepreneurship, is no matter what client I get, no matter what type of role I'm in or say yes to or pitch myself for, there's something I could probably get out of it. And most of the time, especially in the beginning, was just learning from the other entrepreneurs. I had no effing idea what to do. I knew I could do it. I just didn't know what the new process would be, or, you know, I was just learning a whole nother world, different personalities, different ways of marketing yourself. And so me jumping in is really learning from like all the other experts in the room.
Phrase I really love that I heard from Ashley Pollard, who is founder of the Doers community, is it's not hard, it's new. And I think of that a lot lately because it's not hard, it's new, but we attach ourselves to this is so hard, it's difficult, I don't know what I'm doing. But it's not hard, it's just new. You're just learning.
Yep. Yeah, we're just learning, and then we learn if it's for us or not. We learn if we hate it, or, move on.
Yeah, I love that.
I love your framework of like, I'm learning something, and no project is a bad project as long as I'm learning something. When you think about how you've helped people go through this process, where do you see other people get bogged down in the transition and like they over focus on little things that end up not mattering that much in the long run?
Yeah, and I can think of so many things, but one, I think it's like the logistics of things. And granted, I'm also coming from the perspective, and we joked about this in the beginning, like I'm ADHD, I like to try new things, I like the dopamine. Part of that is like a mindset, is being okay with not having everything planned out. There's always going to be a step or the unknown. And so the biggest thing is not like the skill set or the capability. It really is the mindset around, I have to do this in order to be successful and great, to get paid X amount. And that's like the biggest hindrance. That's the biggest blocker, what slows them down the most that I've seen.
So since you talked about the idea of like your ADHD and you like to jump really early, and some people are over planners that need to have the entire thing thought out before they do it, have you found that there's any specific signs that people are ready to go full time in their business?
Yes, a couple. One, already having like the gut instinct to want to do it. So that is a sign in itself, and that they're in a good place. If they're already maybe thinking about a proposal to send to a client or all these things, right? And they're trying to overthink what that proposal looks like, all the steps, the email, that the fact that they're already in that position means that they're ready. Their skills are identified. So I think, I mean, those sound so like overarching or like high level, but I really do think like those are the signs. And I guess I'll add a third is one, the fact that you have a list. I think the list is great, or a game plan is great. So it shows that you know what you're doing and you're prepared. I think that list is just kind of make you feel a little bit better sometimes, honestly.
Did you have a list?
No. So I was telling my husband this, like I never have a list in general. I was telling my husband this, though, like sometimes I feel like it's just, like I said, like making yourself feel better. But also sometimes if I do write a list, sometimes I feel like I'm just like cosplaying for a second. I'm like, do I know what I'm doing? I don't know. Especially like the first year, you're like, I feel like I'm just kind of going through the motions, but all of those motions I consider like reps, I guess, too. So
yeah, no, that's a great way of putting it. Was there any preparation work that you did before, like in terms of financially planning or things like that?
No, I think because of the layoff, Like it was always in my gut, but I
Yeah.
never fully prepared. Now, granted, I had a little bit of cushion in that. I'm super privileged and that I'm like married, I have that support. Not everyone has that to be able to do so. But I also think that created a level of like urgency for me too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mhm.
so I got to find something. I got to find something, even if it's temporary, to be able to bring in something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
For like you talked about making resources to help other people thinking about going through this process, at least for our experience as coaches, like that's one of the most common questions that we will have people ask is like, how much money do I need to be able to make this jump, or how do I plan so that I have money to pay rent or things like that? And how do you usually think about giving advice to people that are asking those money questions, or they're stressed about like risking their like family or their future by making this jump?
Yeah, so I always preface like I'm not a financial planner, coach, what all the things, right? So I always try to like point them in that direction if they need it. But what I also say, and I work primarily with women, like we're scrappy. Like if we had to, we could.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And so if it's doing this and having a coffee shop job because we're really set on not going back to the office job, like we could do that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of women in my community and just friends that I know who they are doing their online job, but they're also like front desk at a bar studio or Pilates studio. And not just because it's any other job, but also because it's something fun. So there's always ways to create multiple streams of income. And this is kind of your opportunity to be creative and fun about it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
There's instead of where there's a will, there's a way. Where there's a woman, there's a way.
Absolutely. Sorry.
Slap that on a t-shirt.
Yeah.
I want to go back to that concept of fun because you brought this up earlier too, and that is such a piece that is easy to miss or discard once you get in the weeds of entrepreneurship. And that applies no matter what stage you are in, whether you are 2 days in, 2 years in. It's so hard sometimes to prioritize fun. And something you do really well is embracing the fun pieces and not just embracing them, but prioritizing them. So, can you speak to that a little bit? How do you find ways to intentionally incorporate more fun into your life as a business owner, more fun into your work, and make that so essential?
Yeah, that's been like I don't want to say like a mission or goal in the last year because it does like the journey does feel tiring at times. And like there are weeks or days where I just will like quit. And so my like 2025 goal was to have more fun. And the way that I did that was saying yes to more projects. So kind of what I was doing at the beginning, because those are end up being like my creative outlets. It's cool that I get paid for them. But it's not so much that it's for like the finance piece. It's like I get to try new things. So that's
Mm-hmm.
one of them is like being open to trying new types of projects that I've always been interested in. Two, just about learning new things. I have like a list of things that if I would go back to school, which I'm not going to, like things I would want to be interested in learn from.
Yes.
And then another piece I think is the connection part to other people in this world who get it. Even if it's
Mm-hmm.
not formally in a community, but like having a coffee chat or like going in my DMs and talking about reality TV with someone I know who I've never even met in person, but like, we've met through different communities. And so that has been really fun and then also created a lot of great relationships. And so wild because like I said, we've never even met in person. So
Right. Right. That is like the very cool thing. I know there's a lot of hate on Instagram at times, but I could never, because of the relationships it's connected us with.
Mm-hmm.
That is how we have met so many incredible business owners and gotten some incredible opportunities that would not have happened without that app because of the genuine reaching out, engaging with people, getting to know them. Yeah, hard agree with you there.
yeah.
I think possibly like along the lines of like learning something and being scrappy to making it work. One of the things that at least we've seen is underappreciated is the idea of like taking on work from other experts. Because I think it's the idea of while you're in that in between and you're looking for the supplemental income, being paid to learn is one of like the best things of find someone doing the thing that you want to do and work for them because they're going to teach you their processes and everything. Like don't copy them completely, but
Totally.
you get to understand of like, this is how a business like this works because there's a good chance that the business you want to run is different than what you did in a 9 to 5. And the closest parallel to that you can get that will give you a steady income until you're ready to fully do it on your own is such a great way of being paid to learn that I think is underappreciated by a lot of people.
1000%. And even if you are working with them for like a period of time and you're like, oh, I really don't want to run a business like them, or I don't want to have this actually,
Yes,
then you
Mhm.
learn, and like move on. So
exactly. Yeah.
I think just kind of like the last thing while we are talking about money is like the big question on a lot of people's mind is health insurance.
mhm.
And how do you think about like that huge hurdle for a lot of people if like you're leaving a steady benefits package? How does that have to be included in your calculus of making the leap yourself?
Yeah. So again, I'm going to preface like I'm not an expert in this. I thankfully married to a man who has a W-2 and I can
Love
use his
that.
benefits. But it actually goes back to what I learned when I was working for someone else while like freelancing, I guess you should say, in this world. And I learned there were a lot of resources out there who provide medical insurance or benefits for entrepreneurs, which I had no idea. I have also, because I was working for a team that was focused on HR and employment relations, I also realized that there's a lot of people that you can work for in this world who provide stipends or add that extra buffer on top if you just request that certain amount.
Mm,
Those businesses would give those people $200 a month and they would say, this is your health stipend, this is your whatever it is, tech stipend. And so I also wouldn't be afraid to ask for that as you're pitching yourself, because why not?
smart. I like that. A while back you mentioned that you were working on applying for a grant. How did that process work?
Yes. So I applied for a grant. Myself and my co-founder with Gals Against the Grain. We applied for a grant here locally to a local business organization here in Arizona. We did not get it. However, that process was a great learning experience, and I think taught us the types of grants that we would like to apply to in the future. I think what we had learned just looking at different ones now that we're thinking about applying to, that there are like some processes, like they're really tedious, some of them, making an X amount of minute video and then uploading it to this platform, whatever it is, right? And so I think really making sure, one, that you are prepared to do that. And so thinking ahead of time of like what your leadway is into, being able to have the bandwidth to apply. But two, I also think taking a step back from that is finding organizations that really align with who you are and your business, I think is
Yeah.
also very important. Because
Yeah.
otherwise you're just going to submit, not to saying this is the case, but like you can submit and just not even be
Yeah.
considered after spending all
Mhm.
that time because it doesn't even align. I say all that because that was a good learning experience. As far as like where to go for resources, there's just so many online that I hadn't even thought of. And not to like list them off here, but like I would think first start off locally
Mm.
to where you're at in your city or town, because there's a ton there that I think really go untapped and unused that people don't really think to even consider.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Do you have any advice on how to get tapped into locally? That's actually been a huge question mark for a lot of our members inside of the break room lately is how do I get more connected with my local business owners and associations? How do people get started with that?
Yeah, I don't know if this is like groundbreaking advice, but I just kind of like walk in and
I love it.
introduce myself and say hi. I mean, ours is like right above the library. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'm here. I'm just like gonna go pop in and ask about the process. And so, yes, we can go online and like Google all these things, but I think there's nothing better than like showing face and like showing interest and like meeting people in person. It doesn't have to be formal. Like we want to know and we want to use your resources.
When you say ours, are you talking about a local chamber of commerce? Is it
But yes, sorry. So in
okay?
Arizona, yes, the local chamber of commerce here
Okay.
is right in town. It's like 15 minutes away from me. I'm like it's easy for me. I take my kids to the library. It's right next to the library.
I
Let's
love
just like
that.
walk in really quick. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's awesome. I something I recommend going to conferences and events is walking up to people and saying, "We haven't met yet. My name is Joe. What's yours?" Because I
Mhm.
think a lot of people get stuck on that initial intro. So I love that you take a similar approach. Hi, I'm Ashley. I want to get involved. How can I? That's so cool.
If you think about, so like we've talked about the process that you went through or were forced to go through to kind of start your own business. Now that you're a couple years removed from that, looking backwards, if you were able to talk to yourself at that moment, what advice would you give yourself?
A couple things. Like one is just like reassurance, like you're gonna be fine, you're gonna get through it, and you know it already. But I think, back then I was looking for like this external affirmation gratification, I guess, vibe, if you will. But I also think, not to imply like hustle culture by any means, but like do more when you feel bored or down on yourself. Like there's always one more thing you can do. And that could be like introducing yourself to another person online and kind of shooting your shot. That could be scrolling, not necessarily for like, inspiration, but like, just seeing what other folks are doing out there. Because I think there's a lot of times where back then I would just get so down on myself and then kind of take too long in that misery or self-doubt, where I could have been just like DMing one more person to say hi and
Yeah.
asking if they want to hop on a call and just like yap away.
Yep. What is one thing that you can do today?
Mm-hmm.
That's so good.
So kind of in that vein of like, you have moments to do these things instead of sitting. Like if you were to think about setting realistic expectations of what real work of running your own business looks like for us and the members in our community, that's creative service providers, whether that's photographers, web designers, things like that. They started a business, or they're starting a business because they like their craft, they enjoy the creativity, but how much of their time will actually be spent on those things they really enjoy versus the other stuff like client communication or sales calls or everything else?
I mean, I hate to give a percentage, but I feel like a lot of my time is kind of like the admin work. I mean, like, so let's say 70-30, right? But I would say, I don't know if this answers your question, but a creative way, or another way to like look at it too, is if you want to hone in on your craft, and you can also invite people along on the journey with you, build out loud. And so I know you need to post. Why not just prop up your camera and show them doing your craft? Kills two birds in one stone. You get to do what you love. You have footage and you can market it. And then there you go. And so I think there's definitely ways that people can blend a lot of their different tasks together. But I would say, yeah, something I definitely didn't realize in the beginning was how often it does feel kind of like boots on the ground, getting these like reps in rather than like what I actually enjoy doing.
For sure. Have you gotten to a point now where you feel you're able to tap more into your zone of genius versus these boots on the ground activities? Or is there still quite a bit of we're going to do what it takes?
No, where there's still like, got to do what it takes. That's like
Mhm.
also my toxic trait. There's so much more that I want to do. There's so much more that I know I need to perfect and like clean up. Um, so I don't think it ever stops. I think
No.
like the mindset and
Personally,
perfection
I think that's a
stops.
strength. We
Yeah.
we love hearing examples of other top level CEOs and founders who are not afraid to still quote unquote stoop down to
Mhm.
entry levels and get the work done and pitch in when something needs to happen. I think that says a lot about a person, their character, their work ethic, and is underrated. So I think that's great.
And I think possibly just because like recently I've gone down the rabbit hole on a new email list is Big Desk Energy, which is Tyler, the one co-founder of Beehive. Like he has a great email list. And this week he was talking about of like, they just saw they had a huge influx of people moving over for MailChimp. And he just messaged like 20 people. He was like, hey, do you want to hop on a call? I just kind of want to talk about like why you're moving over, what are the things you need. And it's like, this is someone at the top of a company that's like rapidly scaling, doing like big things in email. And he was like, I saw you moved over. Do you want to chat? Like, you seem like a cool person. I can learn something. And the thing in his email that he noted is like, those were the most impactful calls he sat on in the last couple of weeks, was boots on the ground, talking to a real person. And it's very easy to try and like optimize out of that as your business grows. And that was a great reminder for me.
Yeah, I think in the beginning I had these, I don't want to call them unrealistic because I mean, obviously I would love to have it one day, but I need to make X amount of money. I want to retire myself and my husband, and then I can just like sit pretty on the beach. But like the mindset, I always have to be doing something and I love what I do. And so when you're in corporate, I think it's so challenging sometimes, but also easier in that you know what the next step is. You always know what you're striving for. And in entrepreneurship, you define that for yourself. And I think it's hard, especially as you keep going, to like recognize how far you come and celebrate those milestones. But also, I think I've realized like this is always going to be the journey. And it's one that I'm like down for and I really enjoy. Do I think I'm going to have communities, like specific communities in 15 years? Maybe, I hope so, but like maybe it will be something else. So I think being boots on the ground is kind of maybe our strong suit, something we like doing.
I would say so.
I think for me, like part of my journey is like 4-ish year, probably around the same time you left corporate, I left corporate to join Joe. And one of the things that was tough for me was the identity question, because like I'd gone like the normal white picket fence route. Like I worked a bit, I did my MBA, I went to business school, I got a 6-figure corporate job, and then I pulled the ripcord and left. And I felt adrift for a little while of like, who am I as a person? Like I'm no longer like this title, or I'm no longer a business analyst. I'm no longer all of these things. And it seems like for a lot of people, the transition part of it is also just like realigning yourself of what is your identity to the new job. And for you leading people through this, how do you think about that process so that you're not just like I was adrift for months on end of how do I think about my new identity in this new role?
Yeah, I think one, normalizing that process, like what I now recognize myself, at least, I don't know if you would name it this, but like the grief, right? Like you're grieving your old life, your old identity. And I think for so long, and also I'm a mom. And so I think it's almost a similar feeling of, well, who am I now? And I have to figure that out. And I think also what I've realized over the last 2-ish years is that it's not necessarily about discovering or leaving behind an old version of yourself. Like you're discovering a new version, but there's no like end goal. Once I am this person, then I will have all the answers. You're just kind of like adding chapters to your already written book, I guess. So chapter might be closed, but it also can contribute to like this greater story that you have. But I also think another thing to that too is allowing yourself to grieve for a certain amount of time, that because I think that is significant, but also like how cool is it that you get to discover new versions of yourself. You too might have read it. I think it's called like The Artist Way, Creative Way,
Yeah, I'm
Artist
in the
Way.
middle of reading it right now.
Yeah, I haven't finished it because it's long. But I really liked this idea of like, we're all creative beings. We all have this we all have it innate in us. We just learn to
Yes.
shut it off at some point in our time. And so like, how cool is it that we can discover these different aspects of ourselves and kind of like have the time to do it?
Mm-hmm. Yes, big fan of that. That is something that I am like currently working on right now. Last night we went and walked around at art museum, and it was so inspiring to see all the different pieces of art, the pottery, the mixed media. They had a room where someone was doing glass blowing,
Cool,
which is
yeah.
such an art to me.
Yeah.
Blows my mind. And just seeing all of the different options that you can play around with, and how art is when you make a quote unquote mistake making something, it becomes the art itself. That is so cool to me. It just becomes part of the creative expression. I've really been enjoying that book just for learning more ways that I can tap into my creativity again too. It's cool.
I think one of my favorite analogies of learning, or like the idea of coaches or experts, is it's basically like the cheat codes to the game. And so like if you ask someone that is smarter than you, like they're giving you cheat codes to go faster. Like if you think about the transition, are there any like shortcuts that you know about now that you wish you would have known about when you did it?
I mean, I think the only one, it's not like 5 things and then you'll get here. I think it really is like slowing down the time it takes from decision to action. I mean, really, that's all it is. And only you can decide like how long that time is. But I think about even like in corporate, how long I maybe procrastinated on something because I was fearing any feedback when really I could have just like taken the meeting, got the feedback and realized it was okay and then moved on with my life, you know? And so I think, yeah, it's that the time between decision and action that really is the cheat code to anything in this world.
I want to double down on that for a moment because that is a huge topic that comes up with our clients, our members often. How do you overcome that mental hurdle that happens to quicken the time between decision to action? Because there's so much that happens up here in our heads that tries to get in the way and prevent us from taking action.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah. And I also backtrack and say that sometimes it's not how fast it is in between those. Sometimes it's deciphering how long it should take, I guess it should say, not how fast you should move. So to answer this part of the question, I think really I've learned to say, like, does this or this person like align with like my values? Do I like the vibe, right? Or was my first gut instinct, ignoring maybe the scared or the imposter syndrome piece, like was my first gut instinct, is it accurate or is that like telling me something about the situation or the person? Is it something I'm excited to do, or is it something that I really don't want to do, but I'm taking it for the money? Whatever it is, like, what are my main motivations from it? And so I think it's like the values and the motivation piece behind, like, that could dictate that time between decision and action.
That goes back to a couple of things you were saying earlier. One, on being clear on who you are as a human being, a business owner. And two, your brand, your values, what you stand for. Are you willing to share any advice on how to get more clear on those two pieces? If someone is a little unsure, lacking some of that clarity on who they are and how they want to show up and what they want to hold values on as a company, how do they discover or get more clear on those pieces?
Yeah, I think we always kind of like inherently know what our values are and like what we're motivated by. We also know that it's probably okay to like change our mind at some point and our values can shift. And so I think being okay with that. And I think the only way to do that is to step into rooms, talk to more people, and like try all of these new experiences. And then you get clearer on what you align with.
Mm-hmm.
And those values can range from like little things to big things, however like deep or surface level you want to go. But I think the only way you're going to truly do that is like getting out of your home and behind your desk and like talking to people and trying new things because otherwise it's going to just like be the same and you're never
Yeah.
going to really know.
So something we like to ask most of the people or all the people that come on the podcast is the idea of your first 100 days. Or for most people, when they start a job in corporate, there's kind of like an onboarding process of over the first period of time, these are the milestones we want you to hit. These are the metrics we're going to be tracking to make sure you get up to speed. And these are the specific actions across that first 100 days that will help you get up to your speed in your new position the fastest. If you were to think about milestones, metrics, and actions for someone making this transition from a full-time job to running their own business, how would you create those?
Well, in corporate, what I always did and we always told our team to do was to create a brag folder. So anytime you got feedback, you would just put it in there, right? And you use that for your performance for you, whatever. So I actually, you guys are the first person I'm telling this to. I actually have a folder or like an album in my iPhone that I started from day one. And anytime, and it could be something little, right? Like a screenshot of what my profile is at the time. Not just for follower count, but also it's like been fun to see like what my bio lines were, all that. And so really like taking the time to screenshot like what you think are might be small moments, but are could be like very pivotal and tell your story and journey. And so my metrics aren't necessarily like when you get your first client even or you know all those things. I do think all those things should be celebrated, but it really is maybe you get someone who DMs you and you never even met the person, but it's I followed you because of this. I think that is such like a pivotal and monumental moment. Like you are it's proof that your story is speaking to someone and it's worth sharing. And so the last 2.5 years, I just have these like screenshots of just different things that have gone on that I've wanted to save. So I think that's one, like especially in the first 100 days, like really take a screenshot and mental note of your journey. I think too, I think I talked about it earlier too, or mentioned it was like getting the reps in. And so setting a goal for yourself every week. I'm going to reach out to 3 new people and shoot
Yep.
my shot.
Mhm.
And shoot your shot could be like, hey, I really like what you're doing. Not pick your brain, but like, I like your vibe. Can we just connect? I'm new in this world. And so setting some sort of goal like that to really just get yourself out there. Because I think in the first 100 days in particular, while you're grieving your old world, unsure about this next, there's so much like self-doubt. And so I think getting the confidence reps in is going to be the most important, whatever that looks like for you.
Mhm.
That's so good.
I think the added component of that, like getting the reps in and reaching out to new people, is like you were talking about the idea of getting clear on like yourself and what you want to be doing. Having those conversations, you have to introduce yourself. And if you're introducing yourself 3 times a week for that first 100 days, you're going to be experimenting on like, what is the language that I talk about my own identity, that I talk about what my business is doing, how I want to leave an impact. And all of those things is like, you just have to do it consistently. And every time, if you get 1% better by the end of that 100 days, you'll probably have a pretty good idea of what you want out of your business.
Totally. Yeah. More confidence, maybe like even louder as you're like speaking to someone. I remember when I first introduced myself, I was just like kind of quiet. And I'm like, speak up. Like you can do it.
Speak up. Let's go.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, I think it's time for lightning round. Yeah? Okay, so we have a few rapid fire questions. I have a few bonus ones to add. So let's kick off with, what is a routine that you cannot live without?
Okay, so I'm on like my health, wellness, holistic
We love
journey
that.
right now. Okay,
Same.
it's February, so we just started last week or last month, but it's fine. We're on it. One is like breaking my phone in the evening. That has been very helpful. I can put my phone on D&D all day long, but I will ignore it. So that has been really helpful. Another one I would say is just like moving my body, even for like 20 minutes a day outside of my bedroom, hopefully outside of this house. And that has helped me a lot in all different aspects. So
That's a really good one. I am working on motivating myself to do that right now too.
We have finally made it out of the single digits here, and we can go back outside.
Yes. Amen to
that's
that.
What is something that right now is bringing you joy?
it's like such a buzzword, but like community. Like I love the communities that I've built and the ones that I just like kind of like pop into even here locally. I've just loved meeting new people and just, yeah, it's nice to know that someone else is in this world too, right? And they get it.
Yeah. Well, kind of on that note, who are you learning from right now?
Who am I learning from? Oh my gosh. Well, I would say everyone in my community. I mean, in different ways, right? I recently held a call that was titled like founders who are effing tired. And it was a call for women all around the country who are just tired of what's going on politically. But I have never met them, maybe spoken once, but it's really nice to just follow them and learn from them and be motivated by them and like their advocacy. So that's been really cool to see.
Yeah. I love seeing you put on that call. It was such a fantastic way of bringing community together and holding that space and just saying, you know what, we're not okay with what's happening. We're going to come together and just, hear from each other and talk through it together. I think that's so therapeutic. I was on another call around that time where similar thing, we were just sharing how it was affecting us, and it was really encouraging to just know like, you're not the only one who's feeling this way, and none of us know exactly what to do when, but we know that we want to do something, and it's going to look different for everyone. And it was just very encouraging and validating to have those voices in the room. So I love that you did that. I have not told you that yet, so this is me telling you that.
Thank you.
That leads me to another question that is one of the bonus questions. Something you said earlier in the conversation is that you like to think about, if you were to go back to school, what are the things that you would learn? So right now, if you were to go back to school, what are the things that you would want to learn?
Yeah. Okay. Graphic design, one.
Ooh, fun.
That'd be a big one. And then 2, these are kind of boring, Lynn, and you might like them, but I would like pay more attention to like in history classes and like an econ class. I'm just so like right now, that's my rabbit hole. Just
That's like
learning
right
all
up your
about
alley.
that. Yeah.
So we flew back from California on Monday. I listened to a 4-hour podcast on like the history of data centers, like completely like dense material for some people, but like the arc of like how did IBM start this? How did
Yeah.
like Amazon then move it forward and Google moved it forward, and what's happening now, and like is this actually a water problem or an energy problem? And like I thought it was fascinating, but it's the history of like this is the underpinning technology of how our world works right now.
Yes. And like, how cool will it be in the future? Like, you know what I mean? Anyway, I can't.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, I would learn. Just period.
Okay, I have 2 more quick bonus questions for you. This goes back to something that you said earlier. Again, you said that life is a book. We have different chapters. When you are entering into a new chapter, it's just a piece of your life story, right? What would you title the current chapter that you are in?
I have so many words that come to my mind, but they seem so aggressive. So
That's okay.
I really tried to, because it makes me sound mean and it's not. But I really am in this space of like, I don't want to say leaning into authenticity, but I really am. I've said a couple times actually in my group chats to friends, like, this is my ride, like hop in or like stay back. And that has been like the most freeing. Like you can have a lot more fun. Not everyone is meant to like go on this ride with you, and that's okay. Now that sounds so cliche. But for me personally, like I'm finally at a place that's okay with that. So yeah, it's like, I don't know, hop on or get out.
I like it. I think that's
just
great.
have the Mean Girls gif stuck in my head now.
Yes, that's it. But like nicer.
Well,
But
I
like
thought
if
of a
you hop in, we'll have
trolley.
fun.
I thought of a
Oh,
trolley
totally.
because you can
Oh,
hop
yeah.
on, you can hop off,
I
and
love
it's
that.
going to change. And to your point, you're going to have some people who are around for a season and they served a purpose and it was great for the time. That doesn't always mean that they're there for life, but you'll have other people who are. And
Yeah.
it's a great way of just putting it into perspective. Okay, my last bonus question before we get to the actual last question is, what is your favorite way to celebrate?
My favorite way to celebrate now. One is acknowledging the actual milestone. So, if it's finishing a launch, if it's ending like a 5-week call of a challenge that I hosted, celebrating that. And then the part is like actually celebrating it. So, going out and like getting a little treat, like going out to dinner. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, but like taking a moment to pause instead of like shutting it down and like opening up my email and doing the next thing, because it's so easy to do that and move on.
The last question is, do you have any questions for us?
Oh, look at that. What would you each name your chapters?
I think for me, if I think about the big arc that I'm on right now, is probably becoming a business owner. Like, I think subconsciously for a long time, I was an employee of our business. And I am mentally pivoting for myself. Like, what does a true ownership headspace look like? Going all the way back to like your comment earlier of like a free moment, you can send another message, not just like I'm going to wait for it to happen to me. Like I'm going to be proactive about doing it for the business because I own it now.
I think for me, it's preparing for the possibilities, like preparing myself for the opportunities that I want. And I don't know how to summarize that into a chapter title, but it's something that's been coming up a lot for me lately and goes back to a lot of things that you were saying too. And that includes taking care of my health, moving my body, taking care of my mental health, pouring into our relationship, how I'm showing up for myself personally, getting out of the house, but also how am I preparing my mind and my abilities to show up the way that I want to as a leader for the huge goals that I have for myself and our business. We want to grow our community to be bigger. We want to host more events. We want to speak on stages. And so how am I preparing myself now to be ready to receive those opportunities when they happen, because they're going to happen. And I want to confidently accept them and know I'm going to show up in a way that I feel proud of and also impacts everyone involved in a way that goes beyond if I never did anything to prepare.
Totally. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that is all of our questions. This was so good, Ashley. It's always fun to talk with you and just
It was
catch
so
up.
fun.
You dropped so many good truth nuggets in this conversation. I'm very excited to clip them and share them with people because there's so many good ones. So how can everyone connect with you? How can they learn from you, support you? Give us the down low.
The business card.
Yeah, give us a business card.
So the easiest way is just on Instagram at Your Work Wife Ashley. And then from there, just in my bio, you'll see the two communities, the Working Gal Co. and Gals Against the Grain. And so pop in, say hello. I always like to say like a vibe check is always free. Like, let's hang.
I like that a lot. And you have been sharing lately about doing these in-person, is it VIP days that you're doing with people? Can you just share a little bit more about that for anyone who would find that really helpful in the season they're into?
Yeah. So like I said, I help women and businesses who want to make bold pivots and like build what's next. And so that comes in the form of one-on-one support, if not the communities. So I do like a virtual strategy that's just like an hour. And then from there, I give you kind of like a 90-day plan and we talk all about, it's tailored specifically to that person, corporate or business. But my favorite is the in-person VIP days. And so that is when we get there. I plan everything as far as like food, logistics, beverages, because we need to stay hydrated and well fed. But that is like an intensive day where we just get together in person and we really hash out what's the plan for you for over the next 6 months. But something I'm really excited for that you didn't ask about, but I'm going to throw it in anyway. I have the Working Gal Reset coming up. That is on February 23rd. And so that is a fun, intimate, but also like, I call it like a deciding week, a decisive week, where it's 4 days, 30-minute calls each day. And this one specifically is for people, it's called Locked to Launch. And so if you are a corporate woman who feels like the constraint of the golden handcuffs, or a business owner and is ready to up-level or optimize their offers or business, those 4 days are really fun. So would love for people to join me there. That's on February 23rd.
I love it. It looked like I had so much fun seeing everyone talk about the last round of the Working Gal Reset. It looked so good and impactful. So thank you for sharing about that. Okay, guys, we will drop all those links in the description for you. You can go and connect with Ashley on Instagram, check out all of those resources that were mentioned, how to work with her, etc. You know the drill. Thank you so much for your time, Ashley. Today, this conversation was amazing. Thank you guys for listening. We appreciate your time as well. And if you want to connect with Lyndon and I, you can connect with us on Instagram at Joe and Lyndon or visit our website, joeandlyndon.com. We'd love to connect with you as well. Thanks again, Ash. You're amazing.
Thank you.